Have you ever wondered how international arms sales influence the Israel-Hamas conflict? It's a question that uncovers a complex and multifaceted issue. This conflict, steeped in history and politics, often sees the scales tipped by the world's powerful players through the sale of weapons. This supply of arms, while ostensibly for defense, can sometimes fuel the fire, leading to prolonged conflict and escalated tensions. On the other hand, the same arms sales can also be a tool to broker peace if used strategically. Now let's delve into recent events that have added a new twist to this situation. Recently, Saudi Arabia made a significant demand. The kingdom, a major player in the Middle East, has called for a drastic shift in the current state of affairs in the region. Saudi Arabia has urged all nations to halt the sale or supply of weapons to Israel. This move, they believe, could be a vital step towards ceasing the ongoing Israel-Hamas war that continues to destabilize the region. However, the kingdom's demand goes beyond just an arms embargo. Saudi Arabia is pushing for the commencement of a serious and comprehensive peace process. The ultimate goal, to establish a Palestinian state along the borders decided back in 1967. This stand, if realized, could potentially reshape the political landscape of the Middle East. The potential implications of this demand are far-reaching. On one hand, it could lead to a significant de-escalation of the ongoing conflict, paving the way for a more peaceful Middle East. On the other hand, this could lead to a shift in alliances and power dynamics in the region. It would be interesting to see how nations worldwide react to this call, and whether they choose to heed Saudi Arabia's demand. While Saudi Arabia has made its stance clear, another major player has also weighed in on the conflict. Chinese President Xi Jinping has also made a significant call regarding the conflict. He has joined the chorus of voices appealing for a ceasefire, emphasizing the need for lasting peace and security in the region. His words are not merely empty rhetoric, but a reflection of China's growing influence and strategic interests in the Middle East. President Xi does not view this conflict in isolation. Instead, he sees it as part of a larger tapestry of regional stability. His call for a ceasefire is not just about ending the immediate violence, it's an appeal for a more profound and lasting peace, one that addresses the root causes of the conflict and not just the symptoms. The impact of this call could be significant. China is a major global power, and its words carry weight. It has the economic and political clout to influence the course of the conflict. However, it's worth noting that China has traditionally taken a more hands-off approach to conflicts in the Middle East, preferring to focus on economic ties rather than political ones. But this could be changing. China's call for a ceasefire might be a sign that it is ready to take on a more active role in the region. It could be a sign that China is willing to leverage its influence and resources to help bring about a resolution to this conflict. This doesn't mean that China will suddenly become a major player in the Middle East peace process. But it does suggest that China is willing to use its position as a global power to advocate for peace and stability. And given the complex and volatile nature of Middle Eastern politics, any call for peace, especially from a major global power like China, is significant. Both Saudi Arabia and China have made their stances clear. But what does this mean for the overall conflict? The demands from Saudi Arabia and the call for ceasefire from China could significantly reshape the Israel-Hamas conflict. In a world where geopolitics often feels like a giant chess game, the pieces are shifting. Saudi Arabia's demand for an end to weapon sales to Israel and China's call for a ceasefire are not just words. They mark a possible change in the dynamics of global power and the balance of peace in the Middle East. First, let's consider the implications on international arms sales. Saudi Arabia's plea to halt weapon supplies to Israel may put pressure on major arms exporting nations. They might have to reassess their stance, weighing the economic benefits of arms trade against the moral and ethical implications of fueling a conflict that has cost numerous lives and caused untold suffering. Secondly, these calls could lead to a renewed push for peace talks. A serious and comprehensive peace process, as demanded by Saudi Arabia, would mean acknowledging and addressing the grievances of both sides. This would involve discussions about the borders set in 1967 and the establishment of a Palestinian state, a matter that has been contentious for decades. China's call for a ceasefire is also significant. As a major global power, China's voice carries weight. This call could put additional pressure on both Israel and Hamas to halt hostilities and engage in dialogues for peace. However, the effectiveness of these demands and calls depends on the response of the international community. Will nations heed Saudi Arabia's demand and stop supplying weapons to Israel? Will the call for a ceasefire from China bring about a pause in the hostilities, leading to a potential peace process? While we can't predict the future, we can observe and analyze the present. The demands and calls from Saudi Arabia and China have the potential to influence the course of the Israel-Hamas conflict. As the world watches, the decisions made now could have a lasting impact on the future of the Israel-Hamas conflict.